Substitute teacher arrested for allegedly being drunk on the job in Michigan classroom. Price gouging from COVID. Student ebooks costing up to 500% more than in print. Wow.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you are tuning in. My name is Jonathan Torres-Herrera, and you are watching or listening to the JTH Show. Today, let's talk about something that I'm somewhat passionate about. Now, I'm lying. I'm very passionate about. And that is, who is failing? Teachers or the school system? But first, roll the intro. All right, thank you for coming back and watching one of our shows, or if you're new here, we do these shows now daily where we talk about current events, headlines that are out there in the world, and that we feel we should have a discussion with you. Also, you can catch this episode and any episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Radio Public. In addition, you can check out the link tree below on YouTube to see essentially links to everywhere that our show is hosted on the internet. You know, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everywhere until it gets banned again. Somebody gonna get that joke. But with that said, let's jump into these stories for today that Josh here has put together for us, and I feel very, very passionate about. Josh, take it away.
Oh, yeah. Well, you're going to get fired up for these ones because the first headline I got here was from The Guardian. And the headline was Price Gouging from COVID. Student ebooks costing up to 500% more than in print. Wow. I mean, I personally, I haven't had any experience with ebooks or anything like that. I'm more of a paper kind of guy, analog books, if you like. But yeah, let's have a little bit of a look at what they said here. So they go on to say that librarians at UK universities say students' reading lists for the term are being torn up because of publishers' quote eye-watering increases to ebook prices, and some students are now reading what is available or affordable rather than what their tutors think is best for their course. Wow. So it seems that, I mean, students not only have any money, but they can't get any of the tools that they need to be able to learn.
It's insane.
But anyway,
it's insane.
Yeah.
It's infuriating. So some of you guys hopefully will catch an interview that I did this week with a teacher. Well, at this point, an ex-teacher that was forced essentially to quit because of the pressures, the injustice that exists in the school system. Now, this story in particular, right, we're talking about here is from the UK, but the teacher that I spoke to here in the US, specifically here in Texas, is somebody that has been teaching for 11 years. Based on my conversations with her, a great person, you know, probably even better teacher, and felt like there was no way out because of the issues that come from above. Now, I said at the beginning of the show that I'm very passionate about these problems because for a long time now, and by the way, full disclosure, I do have a bias in favor of teachers. Why? Yes, because some of you guys might know that my wife was an educator, and to a certain extent, it still is because we homeschool all of our teachers. Side note, shout out to my children. All of them made honor roll this week. So yeah, proud papa here. Thank you very much. But anyways, back to the story here. I feel, passionate about topics around education because personally speaking, I feel like I didn't get, the best dealt hand when it came to my education growing up, right? I felt like I'm not going to sit here and say the teachers failed me, but I do feel now as an adult, looking back, that the education system failed me, right? Yes, the education system is ran by teachers and people ultimately. However, there are a lot of old-fashioned, antiquated, tired out, period, practices that happen in schools. And one of them right now, for instance, right, is not really evaluating, as in the UK here with the article, how much should an ebook cost? I mean, we're in an age of technology, ladies and gentlemen. We're not in an age anymore where we're writing with stones on brick walls or whatever, with stone walls rather. We're in an age of technology where a lot of these books, right? If you know where to find, they're free. But for a lot of the people that don't, and that's a lot of people, how is it that right now we're going to charge a student who's trying to better themselves over 500% more so that they can finish their education, so that they can go on, by the way, and hopefully be better, productive members of society, which ultimately, depending on where you are, we're going to benefit from, right? If tomorrow there are more doctors available, or teachers in this case, which, by the way, also side note, there is not, and that should be extremely concerning to everybody listening to this. There are not more teachers. There is not an increase of inspiration out there, or even want to be a teacher. So that's concerning, okay? But anyways, if we do get to the point where there are more professionals out there, right, it is to all of our benefits to a great extent, right? We have heard countless people, including myself, that will, talk a lot of smack because, God, there's a lot of dumb people out there, aren't they? And while, that might be exaggerated most of the time, it is very true as well. And, again, my point is we benefit from people wanting to go to school, wanting to get an education. But when you have a situation where you have books, ebooks, I repeat, ebooks, over 500% more expensive than a paperback, that is outrageous. It's outrageous. What else did the article say?
Yeah, well, moving on. I mean, I think the whole point of this is that COVID is actually accelerating the reason why the price has actually gone up, because with the article actually says, with thousands of students studying in their bedrooms at home because of the pandemic, proving access to textbooks and research books online has become crucial. It's not like we can just go down to the library, check something out, and it's just as easy as that. Sure, there are still some libraries that are open, but it's not safe. It's not 100% safe for anyone to be going out, whether it's a student, whether it's a teacher, whether it's anybody, because you could be having contact with people who are more vulnerable to the virus. Anyway, moving on. Librarians say academic publishers are actually failing to offer electronic versions of many books seen as critical to degree courses during the pandemic. And they say universities frequently cannot afford to buy the ebooks available, for which they can be charged more than 5 times as much as the printed version, often running into hundreds of pounds. So that would be, still hundreds of dollars as well,
Right.
And yeah,
Per
sometimes
copy.
for one, yeah, exactly, per copy. And then moving on, finally, it says nearly 3,000 librarians, academics, and students have now signed an open letter calling for a public investigation into unaffordable, unsustainable, and inaccessible academic ebook market.
That is a joke. That is just, it's insane that it's coming down, like it always comes down, right? And I've said it before, to the money, to the dollars, right? Where we're putting effectively a price tag on whether or not, after you pay for school, right? Even if you're talking about private schools for grade school or college, after you pay for that, there is still a growing price tag for you to have access to the actual knowledge, right? So it's not just the school credits you pay for, right? At least here in the States, you pay for college credits. That doesn't guarantee you anything other than, I suppose, a participation spot, in school. But if you want access now to the actual knowledge, now you're faced with paying, 500% more, right? And it's not because you choose not to go out, because you choose to not go grab a paper copy. It's because it's just not available, right? In many instances, it's just not available. It's insane. This price gouging is something that should absolutely be investigated, right? Because that's the sad part, by the way, also of humanity, is that every single time there's some type of need, right, for the betterment of the people, there's always a corporation, a business that says money, business opportunity. And listen, I'm all okay for people that are with the capitalist group and say, man, that's really what moves the world. There is a balance, and I've said it before. There is a goddamn balance. And if you don't believe that there is, you're having to have a hard look in the mirror, right? I'm all for these companies making money because they're creating jobs, yada, 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 yada. Yes, I'm all for that. But when you're talking about an ebook being priced 500% more, and by the way, the average price of most books, right? Even college textbooks, right? Like the big, thick ones, you're looking at anywhere between 50 to all the way to $200. So you add 500% more to that. It's make the numbers. How insane is that?
Yeah.
Right. It is infuriating because again, it's happening. It's happening all over the place. In fact, one of the things that I can mention as well is that it happens so often that teachers, to all my teachers out there, shout out to you. To all my educators, shout out to you, that will go ahead and pay money out of their own pocket so that the students can have what they need, because the schools won't pay for it, can't afford it, or whatever. Pick your poison, right? But the teachers will end up paying for it, right? Which again, I know it's another topic, but is insane. It's insane. But anyways, let's move on to the next story, I suppose.
Sure. Well, actually, just one last thing, just whilst we finish this one off, the UK, as far as universities go, a lot of students get something called a student loan. So they're able to actually borrow money from the government to be able to, pay for accommodation, pay for what the student might need. And this has been going on for maybe the past 20 years or so, I think, since Blair, Tony Blair was Prime Minister of the UK. He made university more accessible to people who didn't have access to it, which in some ways is great, but in other ways, people argue that he devalued what a university degree is. That's another topic for another day. Anyway.
Yeah.
But in the end, it seems that they're trying to find a way in which they can still get money and take it on that very kind of privatized, very, I don't want to just say US, but that very continent of America style of privatized business. Let's try and make as much money out of these people as we can whilst they're still breathing. But anyway, that's the end of that story. I think let's just knock that one on the head before we make this another hour episode.
Yeah, let's get more angry with the next headline.
Oh, this is a good one. So when I was looking for this one, this was a headline from radio.com. And substitute teacher arrested for allegedly being drunk on the job in Michigan classroom. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, is this where we say
they always, yeah.
So I was gonna say this where we say in the first story, no, it's the damn school system, right? I'm ready to put them on the chopping block, and then we get to this headline, and then you wonder, or is it the teacher, or in this case, even substitute teacher, right?
Well, I might have some points, but let's have a look at the headline, or let's have a look at the article, shall we? So, a substitute teacher filling in a Lenawee County classroom was removed and then arrested for allegedly being drunk on the job. Staff at Blissfield Middle School dialed 911 at about 1:30 p.m. Thursday to request help for the teacher. He reportedly was experiencing an alerted state of consciousness. At first, it was thought the teacher was experiencing a medical emergency. Then police arrived and they discovered the man was actually drunk. Okay, so obviously he was arrested for disorderly conduct and public intoxication, and was taken to county jail. So yeah.
So meanwhile, the superintendent assured parents that no students were harmed by the incident. The substitute was repeatedly have been warned to never return to school. So this comes as Michigan school districts experience a patchwork of in-person and in-remote learning during the pandemic, while the governor urges them all to return to classroom by March 1st. The governor has also authorized $500 in hazard pay for each Michigan teacher who has worked during the coronavirus. So this drives me off the wall. A lot of people might not understand how difficult it is for a teacher to consider going back into a classroom, right? Even though, as I said before, I'll listen to other people's shows and podcasts like TYT or Ben Shapiro. One of the things that recently Ben Shapiro himself said, which, I could not, I guess I could believe, but it really disappointed me is that, he downplays of, children need to go back to school. They're the lesser affected by the pandemic, blah, 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 blah. And, I wish I could be in front of him and tell him to shut the f*** up, because he has no clue how many of these students that might transmit the virus, they might be fine, right? But the problem is that schools have a high number of teachers that are over the age of 50 and older, by the way, much older, either because they refuse to retire because, they love teaching. That's their call, or because they have to work because, society and how crazy the economic divide is, right? Even among the elderly, whatever the reason, there's a lot of elderly working still. And those are the vulnerable, right? That are teachers that can get the disease, unfortunately, carried by little Timmy, even though little Timmy is experiencing almost no symptoms. And then that's it. We have other people within the school system, right? People that work in the cafeteria, people that work cleaning the schools, right? That are not typically the youngest in our society, right? So for that matter, it's like, what are you talking about when you tell me that, schools are at the least worry? Well, you have no effing clue. Just because your kids are not in that group, right, of that high percentage contraction rate or mortality rate, doesn't mean that the educators that might, catch some of that. Not to mention, by the way, there are a ton of students nowadays with pre-existing conditions, right? Anything from asthma all the way to some more serious diseases that if they contract the virus, it could also be deadly. So no, right? To the people like Ben Shapiro out there, no, schools are not the safest to continue in-person learning. Now, the other side, by the way, of this problem is people that can't imagine how tough it is for you to be able to teach children in person here, like physically in the same room as I am, and then having cameras and then screens way over here. There are people that if I put grown people, and this is not a theory, I've done it, where I have put grown individuals, various individuals. I don't want anybody to tell me, maybe that person was dumb. Stop it. Various individuals in working training environments. We're talking about people 20 plus years that will have to teach a couple people in person and then another group on camera, just different areas of focus, and they'll crash. They'll want to break. They can't do it. It's hard. People that they're allegedly teaching or instructing don't really get all the message, right? Because they're all divided. Now imagine the same scenario with children, with people, little kids, right? Little ones in the ages, between 5 and all the way up to, I don't know, even teenagers, which, by the way, arguably get worse. They don't get better, right? When it comes to paying attention, when it comes to actually doing their schoolwork, when you compare, a little kid in elementary school to maybe like a teenager in high school, right? Now imagine having people there and on the camera, and you're answering questions here and you're answering questions there. Every single time I have spoken with people about the scenario, and it's like they have all the solutions in their mind, right? It's like, put the camera in front of them and then a little screen here, and then everybody in the background, and it's like you're talking at the same time. You have no effing clue. You're just whipping that shit out of your butt because you think that in your mind, in theory, it works fantastic, but you have no clue how frustrating that can be. right? For you as the instructor to have to answer questions here and then read something, grab onto something, deal with all the technical aspects. And then plus, okay, now you're walking around talking to all the rest of the students, right? It's infuriating because you do have governors, like the governor here in Michigan, that are all the way to the top, right? As most administrators are, and they're just spitballing effing ideas, and they have no in-classroom, no in real life experience of how to deal with this. They're just like, oh, well, just try this. Oh, how about try this? It's just like throwing shit against the wall and see what sticks, right? It's like when you grab spaghetti and you're like, oh, most of it fell, but that one stuck. I wonder how that one stuck. And side note, I know that I have seen comments online where there will be like this very tech savvy, maybe very very highly intelligent individual that comes up with this master plan and has I have even seen people say, well, I've tried it in practice and it works great. I managed to do it. You know how easy that would be, right? To say if an example, Einstein probably felt the same way and say, I don't understand. Why aren't all you guys as smart as me? I did it. I invented this. Or Benjamin Franklin. I don't understand. Why is people different? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because we're human, right? And it's really, like I told you guys at the beginning. I hate to be all animated here, but it gets me going. Because at the end of the day, while all these adults are yelling at each other and arguing and having their different points of views and arguing with what works best, you know who's being affected in all this, Josh? The kids, man. The kids, dude.
Exactly.
Right? And it's like people care about the ones and zeros. People care about what they prove right because, their cojones are like, I'm right and this worked. All that matters to them. And it's like the last thing that matters is the actual children.
Well, exactly. I mean, that's always like the cookie cutter thing of like, this is easier. It's far more financially viable. And so this is the easiest thing to do. Cookie cutter. And I tell you what, that does not work when it comes to educating kids. I've actually been a teacher for English. I think it was maybe like 2 years ago, I was teaching English. And actually that kind of just shows, in the continent of America, because I'm living here in Mexico, I was an English teacher. I have no accreditation. I could have been, the guy just asked me, like, do you want to, I mean, the only thing that I have is I actually speak English, obviously.
Right.
But the thing is, he did no background check on me. He did absolutely nothing on me. I'm not, but I could have been like, a serial killer or something like that. He just got me off the street and he was just like, I'll teach. Go on, English, do English, So that has actually seeped down from the States. And now what you're saying here is it's not just a black and white situation of this works, this doesn't. It's every person is different. I think all of us, if you are sane and living in the real world, will realize not everyone is the same. Not everyone learns the same. Everyone has their own velocity of how they pick up things. Some people might be more visual learners. Some people might learn better just from numbers. Some people like to read. Some people don't. That's fine. It doesn't mean that they're dumb just because they don't like to read or can't read. It's just that they learn in a different way than every other person. And now let's go back to what the actual article is here. So let's look at why this teacher actually got drunk in a classroom. Well, I'm going to stick up for the teacher a little bit here, and here's why. Is it right that he went to the school drunk? Absolutely not. But I can understand why someone might do this. You're living in a global pandemic. You might not have much money. You might not have been working for 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, maybe even a year by now. Well, no, not quite a year yet. Or I don't know, maybe he lost his job in January. Who knows? Anyway, he's not been working for a long time. He might have got COVID. He might be depressed. He might be struggling for money on his last legs, of his mental health. And his way of coping with it is getting drunk. Right. I'm not going to demonize it, but at the same time, I'm not going to condone it. I'm just trying to understand and be empathetic because this guy might be on his last legs. And just that was the moment when he broke. That was the moment he was like, F my life. I'm just going to get drunk. It's the only thing that gets me through the day.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you know what, man? As much as I am a big, if, at least personally speaking, I consider myself one to really watch out for children, of course. I've have countless episodes where I speak about, the stupidity of grown-ups. I will say that in this particular instance, I'm very happy, first of all, by the way, to hear that, it wouldn't go beyond him just getting drunk and, basically being arrested. But I will agree and say that I do consider those things as well, right? Like I've always said, I very much like to be a person that sees both sides, right, of the problem. And yes, we can all acknowledge at its face value that it is horrible that he went drunk to school or that he even drunk at school. I don't know the actual, minute details of everything, but in the other side of things, it is very sad, to see that potentially this man is going through something that is beyond what he feels he can handle, and opted to drink, right? Especially, when dealing with children, right? Even if, I don't know if this is an elementary or high school, middle school, but it doesn't matter. I mean, they're still children. And we need to start seeing, those things, us as a society, right? Why are people opting to go down that path, to go down that road? I think there's going to be more people, specifically we focus here and we keep the focus in the school system that might opt for that, right? Because of the pressures, and that's something that I think as a society, even for those of you guys watching right now that don't have any children, to really, pay attention to, because either you might have children in the future or you might know someone that has children, and it does matter, right? I think anybody watching this probably have some pretty effed up stories of teachers sleeping in the classroom, because maybe they had two jobs or were too old, or teachers that, unfortunately were always upset, always angry, teachers that were always late, teachers that, were always out, and substitute teachers were always, and giving the instruction, and that's why they didn't learn as much. I mean, again, I've spoken to countless people, not just from my city, from many different places, and they'll say, yeah, man, I actually had this teacher that did this, I had the teacher that did that, and it's very sad, because it's getting worse. It's not getting better. Like I said, I just interviewed someone that quit. That was like, essentially, this is screw this, basically. I'm out, And again, it's worrisome because, well, who's going to educate our leaders of tomorrow? I'll leave anybody watching this with this, right? Leave in the comments down below if you have a better alternative or a solution. But think about it. Who is going to, really educate the leaders of tomorrow? And I don't think, I hope nobody here plans on only living for the next couple of years, right? Many of you, hopefully, for many, many more decades to come. And with that said, you're going to be involved. You're going to be impacted to a certain degree with many children that are in school today that one day might be servicing you in some way or another, right? Professionally. And it's like, man, who educated you? Who was your teacher? Who was your parents? Damn. It's just, those things to think about, right? At least from my point of view.
For sure. I mean, yeah, it just looks like a case of a lot of teachers are being underpaid, overworked, and I think that's just what it comes down to. I mean, with everything with the pandemic and all that kind of stuff going on, it seems that education is not that important, and maybe that's why they're raising the price of ebooks. Who knows?
Yeah.
They got to make money somehow.
Money. Yeah. Well, I think that's it for today, Josh.
Yeah, that's it for us.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. We really appreciate it if you hit that like button, ring the notification, click the subscription bell, or whatever one you want to do first. I'm okay with it as well. I'll take it all. In addition, if you want to join the channel, I would even appreciate it even more. You want your name up there, right there? Join the channel, become a member, and I will put your name right there as a sponsor. You let me know what font you want me to use. Anyways, that's it for today. Hope you enjoy, and until next time, see ya. Hey, thanks for watching the JTH Show. Remember, you can catch all the episodes, full episodes, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Radio Public. You can also visit www.thejthshow.com to catch episodes there and to catch anything that we had to blur out because of YouTube or any other platform. We usually put all of our raw information in there that is uncensored. You can also become a member at www.thejthshow.com to catch all the special perks. Thanks for watching.